Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's still morning. Welcome to the WomanUp Initiatives Business and Community Networking Group's members interview. We are going to have two interviews today. Our first interview is going to be with the wonderful Deborah Kelly. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Sherry, for having me. I appreciate it.
We appreciate having you. So, Deborah has been a longtime supporter of the WomanUp Initiatives Tea and Hat Awards Party. And over the years, we've done some things together. And today, Deborah's going to talk to us about her book. She's going to talk to us about being an educator. And she's even going to talk to all of us about how we can make our kids academically stronger and more efficient, even during COVID. So, Deborah, let's just jump right in. We have a whole hour to discuss how we can help our teachers, how we can help our parents, how we can help the kids with anything that we're doing. How can we do all of that? So I'm super excited that you're here. And so let's just start with you as a former educator. Tell us all about that. Tell us all about yourself and your time as an educator.
hmm Thank you, Sherry. I was excited about being an educator and excited about teaching minority children. But with teaching minority children, I realized that they did not have the foundational skills needed at the high school level, that they had missed it. And unfortunately, when you miss any stage of the educational development, you are behind or considered deficit. And I saw
Mhm.
so many of our young people who were descendants of kings and queens, and knowing that their ancestry used to rule the world. We started mathematics and civics and science. So it was no reason that our young people innately should be failing. So I looked at their home life to uh, realize that they didn't have a lot of interaction with their parents. Their parents are busy making money. They were kind of left to defend themselves, and parents didn't realize the importance of the power that they have in the household. So that's the reason I wrote the book called The Turnaround: Parenting Tips for Improving Your Child's Academic Success, How to Make Your Child Smarter, Learning Ready, and Nonviolent. Because it happens in the homes. That's the primary place where our development begins and ends, really.
I understand. I'm smiling because I'm so proud of this book that you wrote to help all the parents, the teachers, the advocates, and everyone that is engaged with children. So since you mentioned the book, let's dive right into the book. Tell me why you wrote this book, and then let's talk about some of the tips that you have in the book. Let's break that down so that we can really, I hope you guys got your pen and your paper so that we can really understand the benefits of some of the information that you are going to provide that's in your book.
Well, I realized that parents did not realize how important their power, using their power, especially before the age of 5. The ability to learn decreases at the age of 5. So it is crucial that parents talk to their children every day, read to them, explain to them what they're viewing. That in itself makes a person more intelligent. The more you talk to your child, the more intelligent your child is going to be. And I realized that a lot of parents didn't realize they had the power to do that. When you ask successful people, successful children, how did you win this spelling bee? What was your recipe? And they would say, my mother and father started at a young age. We went through the dictionary every day, discovering words, or looking at Tiger Woods' life and his father, how he started him with playing golf at 1 and 2 years old. You read the books of Reginald F. Lewis, one of the first billionaires in America, the influence that his grandfather had on him. Read the book of Johnny Cochran, the importance of his family. So it really, we develop individuals who the world can appreciate in the homes. So I just wanted parents to realize the power that they have, especially during this coronavirus time. It's an opportunity, not a time to be dismayed, but a time to take advantage of interacting with your children. And it's not it doesn't matter whether it's a formal or informal. When you're walking down the street, talk about the insects that you're seeing. Talk about the different trees. Talk about the different cars. Fill your children's heads with as much information and knowledge as possible. And that creates a capacity to learn. It broadens their capacity to learn.
I,
You know,
I, I love that. I
uh,
think it does. I think it does. So
yeah.
I just want to welcome my husband, my guest in my studio today, Senator Williams,
Hello,
Anthony
Senator Williams.
Williams, and he just popped in to hear the conversation. So welcome,
Can I ask questions?
welcome. Yes, you can ask questions. Absolutely.
So I am. It's in our home for those who don't know, so we can hear everything that goes on. Um, I have a strong interest in the area of education as a legislator. My mother was a former teacher and administrator. A lot of people in my house, my family, were influences in our education. So all of us in our family were required to go to college as a minimum, and then went on to get other degrees. I absolutely agree with you 1,000%. Parents are the imprint of what will be outcomes for children in their academic performance. But the question I have for you is challenging. The times in which I grew up, and maybe when you grew up, the primarily African American families were constructed. But today, the majority of African Americans are not married or in relationships where you have two parents. The education experience in America, frankly, has not served us well. Therefore, many of us are limited in our ability to read. And I agree with you. The earlier that we get our children to read, the better off they're going to be, the better off they're going to interact. But what suggestion do you have specifically for households? And I don't know if it's in your book or not. Do you talk about the fact that things have changed? And even if you're a parent who has limited skills in terms of reading, what can you do to help your child direct them to be stronger readers than they are?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your question, Deborah.
Thank you. There are so many things that parents can do. Um, if parents can read, of course, as young as possible, before your child is able to even sit up, have a big book with big pictures and point out what they're reading and what they're seeing. And you're reading along the book in front of them. They're listening to your words. They're seeing the association with the word and the picture. They're learning. Now, if a parent does not read, I believe it was Ben Carson who said that his mother did not read, but yet she developed someone like Ben Carson. I'm not talking about his philosophies, and I'm not saying I agree with him, but that is his story. That his mother could not read, but she would have him read the newspaper to her. Therefore, having him experience the knowledge and the pattern repetition of reading, of learning words, even if she could not read. I have your child write the grocery list. Have your child, when you go to the grocery store, read the labels and point out what the labels are. Read what the volume is. And ask them if they buy one orange for 10 cents. How many how much would two cost? How many are in a dozen? How many are in a half a dozen? So there's learning, information transferred back and forth all the time. Even if that parent considers himself illiterate, it can still create a literate child.
I have one more question.
Sure.
How does the consumption of television limit, affect, or help? I have a viewpoint, but I want to know your viewpoint on the amount of television. Does that help, hurt, interrupt? What does it do in the consequence of a child learning and in particular reading?
Well, I think too much television is not good, but programs like Sesame Street, I don't think they are harmful. Information is going in, they're learning from that. I think that's fine. Adrian on the reel, she said that how she learned English was through I don't know whether you remember
I love
they would read along the dots, the words. And she said that that's what she enjoyed doing. And that's what taught her English. And that's what made her smart, by using her mind to read the words on the television. And she said that friends of hers did not want to go home with her because that was her activity, her daily activity. So when you're using your mind, when information is going in, as long as it's the right information. See, I worry about television because of the values that we see on television and the messages that we receive on television, especially about ourselves. No, because it's important that we receive, and that's why home is so important, to teach our history to our children, to make them proud of who they are, because we descend from a powerful people.
Yes, we
And they,
do.
and they should know that. And a lot of them don't know that. They're not proud of who they are. They're ashamed. And so that's what was frustrating to me also. So that's why it's important that we as parents are primary. Everything else is secondary, even schools. We can't depend upon schools to make our children smart, to increase our children's IQ. IQ is just simply how much you know. And I know a teacher where I taught, her child was put in remedial because she didn't know how many were in a half dozen. As simple as that. Knowledge.
Right.
When you go to the grocery store, when you go outside, when you go here, you go there, everywhere, you're talking to your child, especially in the car when they can't escape you. But make it fun. Make it fun. And so they don't know that they're learning. And they are.
So now that we're in a virtual world, how would you say that the parents can use their power uh, while they're teaching and working, or maybe looking for work, but still being engaged with their children during this virtual time that we're all trying to, basically cope with everything that's going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have the responsibility of making our children emotionally healthy as well. And Harold Maslow had a hierarchy of learning, of emotional health. And I agree with that. Where to be self-actualized, and a lot of people are not self-actualized, which is simply seeing the world in a bright place, loving yourself and being able to love others, being able to develop and consistently um, be in a healthy relationship,
Right.
seeing the world optimistically, and seeing what you deserve as being good and being deserving of being good. A lot of people are not self-actualized. And how do they become self-actualized? Well, they don't become self-actualized by themselves. The first step is, there are 5 steps to being self-actualized. The first step is
And
just
I'm going to add,
providing, excuse me?
I'm going to add them on the screen. What's the first step?
Okay, the first step is to provide food, clothing, and shelter. Food, healthy body, healthy mind. When I see young people who have not been fed good food and they can't sit still, I want to say, how much sugar are they consuming? I saw a little girl at one of the places where I vended. I thought it was quite sad that she didn't want anything else to eat besides a hamburger, besides a hot dog bun. She didn't want a
Wow.
hot dog, just the bun. I thought, oh my goodness, that's all she's eating. What is her brain going to be like? How is she developing on probably what she's eating on a daily basis to fill her up? Um, Shelter. It's important that are provided comfort in the home. Um, Clothing, warm clothing. It's important that is provided. Those basic needs that sometimes they are not provided. I remember when my heat went off and I could not cook and I was hungry and cold in this house. I was evil as a wet hen. And I had to go to school and I thought, wow, now
Yeah.
I get it. I don't
Yeah.
feel like teaching. I don't feel like interacting with people. I don't feel like learning because I am hungry and cold and been
Right.
that way for a couple of days. I said, it's only been a couple of days for me.
That's right. I
And
understand that. So
yes,
children, they're experiencing these things and they don't have any control over that. So the parents have to provide these items for the kids: um, food, clothing, shelter. What's the next
yes.
step?
The next step is feeling safe and being able to trust somebody. If you're not provided with your basic needs, how can you feel safe and how can you trust anybody? So that's the second step, safety and feeling trust. The third step is then you can begin to love. You can feel love. You know, you're not deterred from feeling love. Love is something that is learned. And we see our young people angry and hurting each other. And that's a different situation also, you know, in terms of what they've learned. So then they can love. And then when you can love, you can feel good about yourself, self-esteem, good self-concept, uh, good self-esteem. And then when you can feel a good self-esteem, a good concept, then you can be self-actualized. You can see the world. You can be outward centered. You've probably noticed, Sherry, and also Senator Williams, that you know, people who uh, are troubled, they can't help you. They're focused inward on themselves. So a person who doesn't have that distraction of feeling hurt from within, they can now focus on the outside. They can help somebody else. They
That's
can
right.
they can be outward centered.
You need to send your book to Donald Trump. Thank you very much. Go ahead, I'll say.
Okay, so with that, we have someone that wants to join our meeting. April, did you invite April?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
so let's add April to our stream. She can ask some questions to you.
Okay.
April, you there? Hello, April, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm in the car, so
Oh, no
I didn't
problem.
turn on my video.
Well, be safe in the car. Do you have any questions for the wonderful, amazing Deborah Kelly?
So, what is one of the main things that you would tell a parent that they should be working on once they have children?
You know, the first thing I would tell a young person before they even have children is to I hope that they're a whole person before you have a child. And I know that is not always possible, you know, for people to have children after they've discovered who they are, after they have lived their lives. Because after you have children, it's a sacrifice. And that's what young people have to know, that live for yourself first, then have children, because there's going to be some interruptions in terms of you putting the time and effort and work in. It's important to be proactive, intentional, and purposeful when you become a parent. And a lot of times people have children before they know who they are. So how are you going to raise somebody else if you don't even know who you are? So that's my advice there. And after you have a child, then 24/7, you are giving yourself to that child. Every 4 hours, they're feeding before they can even talk. And you have to be there for them. Food, clothing, shelter. Pick that child up every time that child cries, and you will find that that child will cry less and they will become independent more quickly. It works. And then if you pick that child up, as I said, they will cry less because they don't need your attention as much because they got what they need. You have to give children what they need. You have to satisfy those needs. Can't get around it. And expect that child to be healthy emotionally and physically.
Well,
Uh,
thank you for that. April, do you have other questions?
That's it. Thank you.
oh, well, thank you, my daughter, for calling. Love you.
Love you
Well,
too.
we appreciate you calling. The book is amazing, and you can continue to listen in. Uh, Deborah, we really want to dive a little bit more into the book. You mentioned what power do parents have? I want you to tell the parents what power they have in terms of providing or guiding their child or children to some of the things that we are discussing today. Because now the parents have to teach their children they have to do this virtually or a hybrid situation. And so that's a new normal that I think we're always going to be faced with living with. So how are they going to implement these things? What is the first step to implementing some of these tips that can be routine in your household to help you and your children?
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, before I state some of those things, I want to tell parents that they are directly responsible and also directly uh, influenceable to their children in this way. There is something called the iceberg analogy. When I received my parenting certification from PRIN, they have an iceberg analogy, which it said that there are three layers to our emotional health. Now we see the outward behavior. Outward behavior is what you can see. If a child is acting inappropriately, spitting, kicking, or whatever, but we should not just look at the outward behavior. We should look at the underlying, what that child feels about themselves, how the child feels about themselves, their self-esteem, their self-concept. And then look at that underlayer. You know, we talk about an iceberg. The iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is the smallest. That's the outward behavior in terms of effect. The second biggest layer is called the emotional health. And that's what supports the behavior because identity determines activity. So how you feel about yourself is going to determine how you act. So let's look at not the behavior exclusively, look at what's underneath that behavior. And then underneath how that child feels about themselves, look at relational health. Look at the relationship they have with their parents and other significant people around them to determine how to fix what they're going through. Because you can punish, but what is punishment? It just says that a person in authority can hurt me also. Doesn't teach me anything. But if you give consequences to their choices and behaviors, let them feel the consequence of that behavior, that's more effective.
Okay.
You know, now I'm not talking against spanking at all, you know, but I am saying that we as parents should give consequences more often and also look at what is going on underneath that behavior. The child may have been hurt that day by a friend or, you know, and then they're striking out because they're angry. Let's find out why they're angry. Let's delve into it because
Yeah.
there are some layers underneath. You know, it's just like we cough or sneeze.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the cough. That's just a symptom. Let's look at the reason for the cough. Let's look at the reason for the sneeze and heal that. And that's what parents can begin to do. Not just punish, put you in a room away. Doesn't solve anything.
Right. I agree with that. So, Senator Williams, do you have another question for Miss Deborah?
Before I get to the question, I guess I have a few observations because I listened to your comments and I don't know you. And this is really, I apologize, I had not gotten to read the book like my wife has. But I do listen from a acute ear of being involved in this issue of education and, you know, my own parental background. And I think one of the things I'm really impressed with is that if people read your book and listen to what you're saying, then education is not static. In other words, you're not just talking about one space or one moment, one classroom or one teacher. You're talking about the total consumption of the environment and the impact of the environment and how you learn in that environment and how all those things, clothing, food, tone, temperament, information, go into educating a child and therefore molding a child. And so probably, I guess, you know, for many of us, we talk about the highest position as a teacher. People don't realize that that's not just a person in the classroom, it's a person outside the classroom. It's a parent, grandparents, an influencer. It's our friends. And we process that information in a certain way. And you're giving us tools about how to process that information to make sure the child gets to its greatest level of achievement, which I think is wonderful in the manner that you're doing it. The only thing I would ask, I mean, my curiosity is, again, I apologize. I didn't get the opportunity to read the book yet, but I will. Have you written other books?
What was that last question? I'm sorry,
Have
Senator.
you written other books?
Oh, I had not written other books, but
So
I have.
you're a first time author.
Yes,
So
yes.
I don't know if I came in late. So how did this come about? That becoming a first time author in the process.
The need. Being an author was a vehicle. Having the book is a vehicle for my message because I wanted to get this message out there. If there was another way, I perhaps may have taken it. In other ways, I want to take as well. But the book was a vehicle for me to get the message to parents. I do parenting workshops and presentations. It's so important that I interact with parents. Even in the supermarket, when I'm in the supermarket, I give little tips when I see a parent who doesn't want to pick their child up or is talking inappropriately to their child. I interfere, and sometimes I shouldn't, but I can't help it.
Yeah, you should. Gently.
So your first time author, how long did it take you to write the book?
About 4 years, about 4 or 5 years. All the
So
information in there.
was it a conscious decision? I want to write this book. Or you just started writing and then discovered you have a book.
It was a conscious decision initially. I had incorporated a few years ago, but doing educational wall murals as resources for parents to teach from the walls. I had big lettering.
Oh,
My
nice.
first child, my first child was born with Cruzon syndrome, and she was developmentally delayed. The doctor said that I should get big lettering because I could still teach her. She couldn't sit up, couldn't roll over, couldn't pick her head up. So I could not find lettering to go on the wall, large lettering, 12 inches. Could not find lettering. So I got out my pencil, picture board, and did it myself. And I realized that, after she passed, I realized that other parents need the same thing, that it's important to start the educational process as soon as possible. I mean, informally, educational process as soon as possible. I'm so glad that Mayor Kinney started the pre-K program for parents. Excellent, excellent idea. So I put the lettering on the wall, and I could tell that she was listening and learning, although she couldn't talk. So after I had subsequently had two more children, I put the lettering and geometric shapes and numbers and fraction circles and the elements all on the wall, and I began to teach them even before they could sit up. Consequently, my daughter entered the gifted program. My son's doing very well. Both of them are college graduates because it works. You have to start, as early as possible, instilling information and knowledge in their heads, and they want to learn.
That's right. I would
They
agree.
want to learn. It's so important sitting down at a table with your family and talking with your family, imparting information and knowledge, how you handle certain situations at work, what happened to you, history, your ancestral history, your ethnic history. All of that can be around the dinner table, and so much learning is done.
I would agree with that because we actually do that, not just holiday time, but sometimes we get together with our kids or other couples, other friends, and or now the girls, we are all on uh, a Zoom call, and then what we do still discuss things that they're concerned about, and it never stops. It doesn't matter what age your children are, they're always going to ask you questions, they're always going to learn from you, they're always watching you. So now that the parents are in the house or doing a hybrid situation with their teaching the kids, what tips do you want to give the parents? Because I know that you do the parenting workshops. What tips do you want to give the parents?
Well, first of all, it's lifelong learning.
Mhm.
You never stop learning. Every day you should learn something new. It's so exciting. And when you instill that in your children, they will continue to want to learn. So as I said, use every environment as a learning environment. Every environment. wherever you go, expose your children to as much new environments as possible. See, and that's why the rich have an advantage.
Well, we have an issue right now with people being able to go out. So that's why I'm
Oh,
asking
yes.
more questions on terms of what can they do in the homes to make sure that they're creating opportunity experiences right within their home or within their community.
Good. Well, I would have an area in my home set aside that they could be creative. Have a small little table and chair and have their ruler, pencil, paper, all of the arts and crafts that they need just to explore and be innovative.
Okay.
Um, that regular interaction with them anyway. But they come up with different games. Games are so important. We learn so much from games. Playing games, and it's fun at the same time. We can also teach them with playing games how to be a good loser, how to be a good winner.
Right.
Yeah, and those things are important.
Friendship.
Yes, yes, those things are important. But have them be busy. As long as they are awake, channel that energy. I see so many young children running around and not able to use their minds as well. See, the more you have them use their minds, the less they have to jump around and carry on and not listen. See, listening skills are learned. So the more you talk to your child, the more you're developing their listening skills, and they're able to transfer that skill to other people and listen to other people as well.
So
Yeah.
I definitely have to jump in here. There's
Oh,
two
of course.
critical things.
Okay.
And again, I'm frustrated. I have not read the book because this may refer to chapters. I hope, but there's
Yes.
a few things you keep repeating. Family structure, and
Mm.
part of which when you keep repeating it, you're doing it intentionally and unintentionally. So the process of and people, hopefully a lot of people will see this because the family structure between when I grew up and maybe when you grew up is different. You may have a grandparent raising a child. You may have a teenage mom or a teenage dad. You may have a variety of those things. That still doesn't interrupt the structure of family and attention to the child in that space. And what you said was the earlier read, which means the earlier you get their attention, the more in control of how they process life. And so
Mhm.
many people I deal with, good people, will tell me their teenage child is out of control.
Mm.
And I look to the basics of what did they do to get to that point of being out of control. 99.9% of them, good people, substituted money or television or entertainment or the mall. And I mean all ranges. Those who didn't have a lot of money, it was television. Those who had money, it's the mall. Vacation. They substituted that space of when they should have been personally engaged. One, like you
Mhm.
said, playing a game, reading, talking, discussing, capturing in the car. I can't tell you how many parents I talk to who will ride in a car with their child and not say any other word other than an inappropriate word. So
Mhm.
you've introduced this concept of family. Whatever that construct is, doesn't matter how much money you have. What
Yes.
matters is the commitment and effort and time you spend with it. And I find that so tremendously
Mm.
important. That's a
Yes.
fundamental part of education that people
Mhm.
miss, that you underlined several times in our conversation. So I thought I was going to bust at one point in time. I didn't interrupt you, but I thought I was going to put him to
Uh,
highlight.
so true, Senator Williams. So true. Just the regular interaction with our children is so important. And that's what I was finding was missing from some of my students. They would say they didn't talk to their parents for 2 or 3 days.
Hmm.
That
Mm.
their parent was making money, trying to survive. So, I agree that it's not the money that's going to develop your children. It's
Mhm.
you, the time, energy, being purposeful, being intentional in their lives. The reason
Right.
why I said that, like money might help is because you can explore this universe more with money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Like the one-on-one, like you could
Yeah,
travel and take them out of the country
no
once
doubt
a
about
year or twice a year or have them enrolled in all of those great
it.
courses. Now, I'm so glad that individuals are offering classes
Yeah.
in the STEM program for not as much money as it used to be. Like those offerings are there. When I was coming up, those offerings weren't there necessarily, that you had to pay for everything, all the extra activities you had to pay for. So that's why I said the money does help, but it doesn't have to help. Because I was saying in the case of Ben Carson, even though I don't agree with his philosophies, he was able to get an education. I mean, he was able to go further
Well, we believe in education, so it doesn't matter who it is. We just want everyone to be educated.
But I think the example is important. And I want to say that example, and I'll shift it to my father, who passed away. My dad was a veteran. My father was a lawyer. He was an elected official. He graduated from University of Penn Law School, went to Penn State. Was the first African American captain of a basketball team. He was the first in a lot of areas. But if you ask me where he came from, and he used to take me back there frequently, he came from a place that we described as poverty, poor. Matter of fact, our joke in our family was he was so poor he couldn't he didn't have enough money to put the R in, so he was just poor, right? So, but the reality was my grandmother, primarily a single mom, focused all of her children on learning, and I don't think my grandmother graduated from high school. So she was not. She was a common sense intellect. She wasn't an intellectual by the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we described mother wit. But my father, because my grandmother was on his, as they would say, on his top all the time, not getting in trouble, not doing the inappropriate things, making sure they were in school, even though she couldn't follow everything they were doing, the outcome was dramatically different. And I agree, money does have opportunity, but this generation needs to, and I apologize for talking about this so much, but this
No, I
generation
think
this generation is growing up with some significant challenges with family construct and money.
Yes.
Access to the internet opens up a whole world of language, learning, education, opportunities. So poverty is not an excuse. The issue that you talked about earlier, the environment we put our children in. Are they motivated to look beyond where they are sitting? They don't have to say, I'm here today and I'll be there tomorrow. No, you're here today and you have an opportunity to get beyond that limitation. So whether it's somebody I don't particularly care for or it's my father as an example, we all come from those challenges, right?
Yes.
But there's so many ways we can do this creative. And I love you described so many of them. In your own personal story of your child who unfortunately passed, God bless her. People think that people like yourself grow up in a mansion or are removed from the challenges of life and don't see the struggles. I'm so grateful you introduced that so people can say, look, if she can do it, I can do it.
That's right.
Oh, yes. Oh,
well,
yeah.
That is one of the reasons why I am so excited that you're a part of the WomanUp Initiatives Business and Community Networking Group. You've been a longtime supporter of the Tea in Hat Awards Party that
my pleasure.
do every year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do it due to COVID this time, but we will be planning another event for 2021. Very excited. We will have it in person or virtually, but hopefully it will be in person in May of next year. And Deborah, you always come, you always engage with the women. You've also been a vendor at one of the events and had the opportunity to talk to a lot of different women about their children. So I love what you do. I want to learn a little bit more about the parenting classes that you're offering and also how can people purchase your book.
Okay. I would like them to call me at 215-840-5544. Now, it's also sold on Amazon, but why make Amazon more rich?
Can you give me the number again? 215
215-840-5544.
Your number again, 215
840-5544.
Okay, it seems that we lost Deborah for a moment.
Okay,
Deborah.
Can you hear me now? That's 215-840-5544. And there's
840
something
5544.
544. Yes. And Senator Williams, if I may, through legislation or whatever it needs, steps to be taken, vocational education is
Okay.
really important.
All right. You're
So we,
the stream, technically, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes okay, we got it. Let me see. It's just it's scrolling. We're gonna try to scroll.
uh-oh, I lost you. I lost you. Oh, wow. Oh, I see you now, but I lost you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what's going on.
The storm is
Oh, there's a storm going on, but I don't know what else
Oh,
is going on. So we do apologize for any inconvenience that you may be experiencing at this time if you are not seeing the broadcast.
okay.
Deborah,
It's
are
kind
you
of,
there?
yes, I am. It's stopping and starting. The audio, the video is stopping and starting. But if you can hear me, can you hear me? Sherry, can you hear me?
Okay. Well,
Oh,
so we are going to in here. You can get her
okay.
book with wonderful questions about um, her book and how she can help parents and students and teachers. And we're just really excited about Deborah, her experience, and the book. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you at 2:30 for our next interview.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for having me. And thank you, Senator Williams, for your questions also. Thank you. Dang.